During the Transatlantic Slave Trade, which lasted from the 15th century through the 19th century, around 12 to 15 million Africans were transported from Africa to the Western Hemisphere for forced labor. For these enslaved Africans to sail across the Atlantic, it takes about 7 to 13 weeks. During this period of long voyage marks the beginning of abuse and exploitation of these enslaved individuals. So many people do not know how the slave masters and the ship crew members abused enslaved Africans or the horrors these enslaved individuals were subjected to during the long journey from Africa to Europe. Therefore, in today's video, we are going to expose this very dark history, the evil committed on the slave ships by the slave merchants. But before we proceed with this video, if you haven't subscribed to our channel and you find value in this video, please use this opportunity to smash that subscription button and click on the notification bell icon so that you will be notified the next time we drop an interesting video just like this one. Enslaved Africans endured immense suffering throughout their journey, abuse serving as one of the many ways in which their humanity was systematically degraded. The trauma inflicted upon them had lasting impacts not only on their physical well-being, but also on their psychological and emotional states. The abuse starts from the time of purchase. Women were occasionally displayed at slave auctions with their bodies exposed to display their ability to become pregnant before boarding the slave ships. Enslaved Africans underwent intrusive and demeaning inspections. The slave traders harassed women and young girls while gauging their capacity to procreate, playing and touching any part of their body. Men and boys were also assaulted in the crotch and anus. Both enslaved men and women were crammed into dark, overcrowded holds of slave ships, destined for a life of subjugation in distant lands due to the greed-fueled pursuit of profit and the inhumane disregard for human life. The ship crew members perpetuated a cycle of systemic abuse against these vulnerable women on these perilous journeys. The already dehumanizing circumstances were exacerbated for enslaved African women, denied the most basic comforts, and were subjected to unimaginable horrors. They became glaring victims of the depraved nature of slave ship crews packed tightly in cramped spaces. They suffered from physical discomfort, malnutrition, and unchecked diseases leading to high mortality rates. The horrors endured. African women on slave ships extended far beyond their physical confinement. Ship crews wielded their authority ruthlessly, using violence and abuse as tools of power and control. Therefore, women and girls endured distinct horror from the crew while living in the same horrifying conditions in the ship's hold. They were forced to be nude, kept apart from the males. Sometimes they are asked to stand before all crew members, stark naked. Enslaved women always on the lookout for white sailors who would attack them as a kind of punishment for defying them or with the purpose to establish dominance, humiliating the victims and continuously reminding the victims, fathers, brothers, spouses, and kids that they were inferior to men for failing to protect their female relatives. And when any of the slaves refuses to do whatsoever is the wish of their master, such individuals will be stripped and whipped. According to Alexander Falconbridge's testimony, sailors were permitted to assault them, sometimes even including young girls. There have been reports of abuse against young girls, including one involving an 8 to 10-year-old girl who was repeatedly over the course of 3 nights by the captain of a ship. Many enslaved women felt forced to give in to their masters' demands because they saw it as the better alternative to a number of awful ones, such as being physically punished until they gave in or being sold if they refused. Some African mothers experienced a second level of dread as they fought to safeguard the little infants they had carried on board with them or had given birth to during the trip. When they were abducted or sold to white traffickers, many mothers were forcibly removed from their babies. Pregnant women were subjected to unimaginable cruelty and forced to endure the journey in abysmal conditions, often resulting in miscarriages or infant mortality. Some women who succeed in giving birth to young infants while on the ship had no medical attention or any form of care for their newborn babies had limited value as slaves in the transatlantic slave trade, and cruel sailors would exploit them as a means of terrorizing and controlling their mothers. According to an anecdote, a sailor drowned a wailing baby by tossing it into the water to further exacerbate their misery. Enslaved individuals were frequently subjected to brutal physical abuse, leaving permanent scars on their bodies while inflicting psychological wounds that lasted a lifetime. Slave ship captains and crew members exercised their power and control through the systematic use of violence. Survivors witnessed horrific acts of cruelty, with brutal floggings, branding, and even mutilation becoming distressingly routine occurrences. These barbaric practices were implemented to break the spirit and will of the enslaved, transforming them into mere commodities and stripping them of their humanity. The history of the transatlantic slave trade reveals the dark realities of how ship crew members exploited and abused enslaved African women on slave ships. By facing this history head-on, we can begin to understand the profound trauma inflicted upon these women and the continued legacy of exploitation that persisted for generations. Acknowledging and learning from this past reminds us of the vital importance of human rights, social justice, and the imperative to continually fight against all forms of oppression. It is only through this understanding and reflection that we can strive to create a more inclusive, compassionate, and just world for all. Thank you for watching. I would like to take a moment to express our sincere gratitude for your continued support. Your viewership inspires us to create engaging content that we hope you find enjoyable and informative for the new viewers. We kindly ask you to subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell icon to stay updated with our latest uploads. Your subscription allows us to reach a larger audience and bring you more quality content. Additionally, we encourage you to share our videos with your friends and family who might also find them interesting. Your recommendation means the world to us.